The Xbox One X launch is just weeks away, PS4 Pro takes center stage, and Nintendo Switch delivers on all fronts. Stay tuned for some Foxy Gaming news. What is good, everybody? I'm Fox of Foxy Games UK, your regular aggregate source of news, rumour and video game discussion, covering the latest game news and rumour with an emphasis on PlayStation, but spanning a variety of platforms. Do remember, all views expressed in this video are those of third parties and do not necessarily represent the views of Foxy Games UK. Follow me via Twitter at FoxyGames_UK. All relevant links can be found in this video's description. So in our first news segment, courtesy of dailystar.com, Microsoft Xbox One X, the world's most powerful 4K console, blows the competition out of the water. Microsoft's Xbox One X is out this November. The dailystar.com had the chance to preview the console and came back thinking Xbox One X really is the world's most powerful 4K console. Yes, it seems the Xbox One X launch hype train is in full motion. Now, it's a big mission statement, and one you'd be forgiven for taking with a pinch of salt. However, for the Xbox One X, it's totally true. There can be no doubt it really is the world's most powerful system. The Xbox One X manages to reverse a trend that's been true of this generation so far. Microsoft has outdone Sony, at least on the power front. At the launch of this generation, we saw the PS4 outperform the Xbox One in terms of technical achievement and sales, and now it looks like the mid-generational refresh really has seen Microsoft catch up to the Japanese tech giant. Now, the dailystar.com had the chance to play with the Xbox One X at a Microsoft event in London recently, and they can confirm it does make games look incredible. At the event, they took Gears of War 4 for a spin on the machine, and while this is an aging game by now, well, at least by industry standards, the 4K boost did wonders for the assets. Enemy models looked far better than in the base version of the game, and the environments seemed to pop more, allowing you to appreciate the effort the developer put into the title. Despite being shown in 4K, however, the game still didn't look amazing. It didn't have the graphical impact of, say, Horizon Zero Dawn on PS4 Pro. It was nice to look at, but for the most part it felt upscaled, like a slightly better looking version of Gears of War 4. That may be because the game was developed before the studio had access to the development kits for the One X. Now, cut to the experience of Forza Motorsport 7 and you can see where the power of the Xbox One X is and what it can really do when a developer has been working with the kit for some time. Turn 10's latest game really lives up to what Microsoft calls uncompressed pixels. Other ultra high definition formats you may have seen, like Ultra HD Blu-rays, streaming services, they're all going to suffer from compression somewhere. Now, thanks to the way Forza 7 is read by the One X, however, you suffer very little direct compression, and the result is probably one of the best things that they've seen in 4K. The game doesn't just settle for looking good and funneling you through predictable tracks. There's a dynamic real-time weather system embedded in there too, and some of the cleanest lighting you'll see in a racing game to boot. The game's performance outstrips that of Gran Turismo and Project Cars at every turn, and shows a very bright future for what the Xbox One X can achieve in the hands of studios that can work with Microsoft to really get the most out of the new hardware. Now, they also got the chance to play Rise of the Tomb Raider on the One X, and from this it's clear to see how third-party developers intend to use the technology. First thing to note is that the Xbox One X version sometimes seems to outperform even top-end PC versions of the game. The second thing to note is that it outperforms even the PS4 Pro version, and if that's a statement of how key publishers like Square Enix will be treating their games versus, say, Microsoft's Sony competitor, it stands that the Xbox manufacturer is in very good stead indeed. If you're keen on upgrading to a 4K TV and want to get simply the best graphical performance out of a video game you can this year, you've nowhere better to go than the Xbox One X. Microsoft really isn't trying to dupe you when it says the machine is the world's most powerful console, and at this early stage at least, for first and third party titles alike, it blows the competition out the water. And that's pretty much where the article ends. Don't forget, it is linked so you can read it in full and make, well, your own impression. So here's my thing. Microsoft seem more serious about Xbox One X enhanced third-party titles Well, at least certainly more than Sony has demonstrated. Microsoft's latest Xbox One X enhanced video that they put out on YouTube really goes to great lengths to really message the benefits of 4K and 1080p super sampling and high resolution textures. They even have a dedicated website for all the One X updates. This really should provoke Sony into communicating the same for PS4 Pro. Which really transitions neatly into our next segment. Courtesy of comicbook.com, PlayStation 4 Pro could become Sony's standard system, with PS5 to follow. If there's someone that's not a stranger to posting his analysis on the video games industry, it's Wedbush Security's Michael Pachter. He's made a number of predictions in the past, with some that end up being right. Like when Nintendo announced a Metroid game at E3, in fact they announced two, including this past week's release of Metroid Samus Returns. He's also gotten a few wrong though, but he continues to try and keep a bead on the industry. This time around he's focused on Sony and looking at their business model regarding both the PlayStation 4 and its 4K friendly counterpart PS4 Pro. Pachter recently talked about what he feels is next for Sony, and while Pachter still thinks the PlayStation 5 will arrive sooner rather than later, Pachter did have some interesting thoughts on the future direction of the PS4 Pro. Now it turns out that he feels that the Pro will become Sony's standard business model of the PlayStation brand, though he didn't give quite an exact time frame. If I had to bet, I'd say 2020. That's all he said. So I reported some of this in yesterday's video, so go check that out. I'll link that in the video description too. So Sony is making so much money on the PS4 that Michael Pachter thinks that they'll continue to make really that as long as they can, milk it in fact. So I think that the natural extension of that is that the PS4 Pro just becomes the default PS4 and they just knock down that price to around $250 if they can. And you can very safely trade in your Xbox One and buy, say, the Xbox One X and start saving $10 a month. You'll also have some time before you need to trade it in for a PS5. So that's Michael Pachter's thoughts there, and I think it's worth noting that Michael Pachter is not paid for 100% accuracy. He is paid to draw analytical forecasts and predictions based largely on past and present market conditions. Sure, Pachter has been wrong in the past. He's also been spot on too, though of course I wouldn't recommend betting the farm on what any analyst believes. So will the far more capable PS4 Pro eventually become Sony's de facto PS4? It's very possible, even though Sony currently has a policy that all games must run on the PS4 and Pro, and the Japanese console giant knows that PS4 is really beginning to struggle. Remember, both PS4 and Xbox One were released in 2013. Some were already frowning upon the console really at launch for being relatively underpowered. Whether you agree or not, it's becoming obvious that both are showing their age. Especially the Xbox One and the Xbox One S, both released underpowered compared to even the original PS4 model. So eventually I fully expect to start seeing some games that will be heavily compromised, may not even run well or won't run at all on the standard PS4 and Xbox One S. So come mid-2018, perhaps 2019, Sony may have to reconsider some of these policies. They may even cave in to the development community's requests for exclusive Pro and One X games. Maybe we'll no longer see PS4/Pro versions on the same disc. Maybe they'll receive individual retail releases in order to slowly phase out the OG PS4 as PS5 prepares to launch. Or maybe not. Like Pachter, I'm simply making my own predictions. That being said, Sony has yet to announce its holiday plans, but we could know more soon enough between the company's forthcoming Paris Games Week event, November 1st to the 5th, and PlayStation Experience in December. And that brings us to the end of another video. For much more on the Xbox One X, PS4 Pro and Nintendo Switch, keep it locked to Foxy Games UK, and don't forget to share your thoughts on all of today's news stories in the video comments. As usual, if you found any of the information in this video at all useful, go ahead and hit that like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe and share the video. It helps us immensely. You can also help us grow by supporting us via Patreon. Starting from just $1, you'll find the link in this video's description. And always remember, play games not corporations. Thanks for watching, everybody.